Do we
keep
like
that on the menu next year.
Do we like the 1 day draft or the 1 day first round?
Yes.
For coverage wise, yes, because we won't be here till midnight like last year.
Kind of nice, huh?
Check back in tomorrow.
Check back in tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Welcome. Are we supposed to ask you questions?
Just let me know if you have a question. You can raise your hand. I will throw it to our GM, Joe Cronin.
Okay, thank you. Round 1 of the 2024 draft is over. I don't believe I'm talking tomorrow, so I always like to thank all the hardworking people in our organization that put in all these hours over the course of the year to evaluate these drafts and, do such an incredible job figuring out the next players for us to add. It's a long list of people, but they're worthy of being called out. Andre Patterson, Sergio Oliva, Mike Schmitz, Asia Jones, Cherie Sam, BJ Domingo, Tina Thompson, Swanga Lamani, Nico Matthew, Danny Connors, Jake Fox, Sean Kiley, Zach Williams. So many people contribute to this draft process. It's a lot of work. The ops people, Nick West, Monet Jones, that bring all these players in. This year we brought in north of 50. And it's just a lot of work that compiles into tonight one person, Donovan Clingan, who a player we're really, really high on, a player we had ranked very highly, a player that we think is going to be a great addition to this franchise because of many reasons, who he is as a person, the type of player he is, the defensive prowess that he brings, the winning mentality, a lot of good features, and Donovan has an extremely bright future. We have a trade that's been reported. I can't get into that tonight in this press conference. Probably circle back on things in a couple weeks on that one. So let's open it up.
How soon did you zero in on Donovan being someone you coveted, and how confident were you that maybe he could be there at 7? And did you consider moving up?
This is where, I just give so much credit to our scouts. They were all over him a year ago. They loved him last year as a freshman. And then, we just studied him closer and closer as, these last 2 seasons went on. And, when the lottery played out the way it did, we thought there might be a chance. It's just hard. You just don't know how it's going to play out, especially over the course of 6 weeks. But even going into tonight, into the draft, I thought this was one of the drafts where it was really difficult to predict what was going to happen between picks 3 and 6. And I think that played out to where general consensus, or a lot of the mock drafts, probably saw a surprise, at least one surprise, maybe 2. And it worked out to where Donovan got to us. So, for us, that was one of the easier selections we're gonna ever make.
Did you try to get up to 3?
We talked. We try to. I think it's something we do well. Is we're really diligent and we really work the phones. We were looking at move up, move back, move in, move out scenarios. Had dozens and dozens of them, and you just try to plant as many seeds as possible and keep all your options open, because literally as the draft plays out, your whole perspective can change given what happens at 3 or 4. And, eventually you say, okay, we're home or we're not. You got to figure out, what's your threshold, and just working through all these scenarios. Okay, if this happens, what's our pivot? If this breaks wrong for us, what do we have lined up to do there? So we were looking at carry out everything.
Joe, was he number 3 on your board?
He was. I don't like to give the number just because I don't want to put any added pressure on him, but we had him higher than we took him.
Joe, on the broadcast and I guess online, there was there were reports that Memphis was trying to get up to 6 to get Donovan, that you guys were potentially trying to ward that off with a move of your own. It seemed like the high drama point of the first round, at least. What was that like for you guys in the room, and how tense were those moments for you guys?
It's my favorite part of the job, the draft day in general, but specifically those moments when you have some control, you're able to maneuver a little bit, yet there's a lot of it that's not up to you, and you just kind of have to wait it out. And ride that wave. And this one ended up being like that, where, like I said earlier, you have all these contingencies, and once certain things happen and we knew we were likely going to be fine at 7 or getting what we hoped at 7, it was good. But those moments right before that, those are as tense as they come for us in this profession. Minus, game winners and, in the off season.
Joe, for the last couple of years, you've talked about wanting to get bigger, longer, stronger, more athletic. You made moves last year where you got probably 2 of the more higher-end athletic bigs. Donovan kind of goes back to a more traditional model. How does he kind of fit into what you guys are doing? Was that purely based on talent, and even if he goes away from kind of the archetype you guys have talked about preferring? And then how does he fit with Scoot going forward?
Yeah. Definitely becoming more physical, more athletic, bigger. Like you said, it's been a continued priority of ours, and I think we did that today in a lot of the things we were talking about. Defensively, Donovan to me is an interesting defender. Of course, he's more of a drop big that's best around the rim. I mean, it's what he does best, is protect the rim. But his IQ and his feel and his ability to navigate and react and, play the right angles or, adjust his depth depending on, who you're playing against and what you're trying to take away. I think Donovan's going to be a nice, versatile defender that, in general is just going to up our defense, something that we've continually tried to do and we're starting to get better at, but we still have a long ways to go there. I think rim protection, has been a big hole of ours, and Donovan helped solve that problem. As for Donovan and Scoot, I think anytime you get a defensive anchor that can play behind, your talented guards, I think that's a huge part of this. But also, someone that can play, do a good job on the other side of the ball. He's a great screen setter. He's going to be a good roll guy. He's got great hands. He's got a good feel. He can pass. He can play off the move a little bit. He's got some work to do, like a lot of young big men, but we like where he's headed skill-wise.
Joe, rotation-wise, you still have DA here and Rob if he's healthy and theoretically still here. Like, you have those guys that are kind of already established guys in the league, and if they're healthy, or guys that are going to play a lot of minutes. And like, do you see Donovan playing, alongside either one of them or starting over either one? Like how do you see all that kind of playing out?
Yeah, I think as we approach this, we're still in such a talent acquisition mode that we're not super concerned about who's playing ahead of who or who's playing next to who. It was more for Donovan, it was obviously get a really talented guy who addresses some huge needs for us, specifically, like we said, the rim protection, the defense, the rebounding, the offensive rebounding. Part of this is we're building a competitive culture. We want these guys to come in and compete and, earn whatever minutes and roles they get. And, when you're a rebuilding team like we are and you're trying to take that next step, we need guys that are capable of coming in and winning jobs. And that's what we're looking forward to, is just being more competitive.
Joe, I've read some people believe that Donovan will be able to extend his shooting range a little bit. I was curious about your offensive expectations for him.
Yeah. Donovan, he came here and worked out for us, and it was good to be up close with him and watch him shoot a lot of perimeter shots. And I do think it's something that he's going to be able to do someday. He's pretty comfortable and he's got a good touch. These shooting in the NBA is complicated and difficult even for a lot of the guards coming in. Like, he's got a lot of work to do, but I do like his feel in his hands and his accuracy and just his overall skill set. My favorite thing about him offensively, I just think he's an underrated passer. I really like some of the plays he made for UConn, who ran a really intricate offense with a lot of cuts and a lot of high IQ players, and Donovan was an addition to that style of play, not, a negative on that end.
Joe, you mentioned that you love draft night, and you mentioned that Donovan was really high on your board, so I was just curious what that moment was like in the room when you see Charlotte pick who they pick and you bet on yourself. You don't try to trade up in this draft, try to trade away more assets, and you see that moment pay off, and you're going to get your guy. So just what was that moment like in the room?
it's a cool moment. You know, there's all of us who have been working this draft and, you know, just this roster so hard over the year to, you know, have a moment where you're hoping something happens and then it actually does. And, you know, everyone's just happy. You know, we all do the clap that people see on TV, but it's literal, you know, just it's relief, it's joy, it's optimism, it's excitement. So you kind of go through all those arrays of emotions, and then, you know, shortly after it's okay, well, what's next? You know, you got to enjoy it, and then you're trying to, okay, what else are we trying to do here?
I know you talked about talent acquisition and guys competing, but DeAndre was pretty much probably the most celebrated and hyped asset that you guys got last year in the trades evolving game. You called him a top 5 center. 9 months later, you're drafting a center. Is this in no way an indictment on Ayton's season or what you believe his future is? I mean, at some point, someone's got to go, right?
Well, I don't know about go. I think, well, first off, Donovan, you know, he's got rookie year can be interesting. You know, he's got a lot to learn still. The NBA is going to be an adjustment. But as far as DeAndre goes, I'm really excited about DeAndre. I mean, obviously, we sought him out last summer, and I thought we saw some really good things from him as the season went on. I mean, DeAndre is incredibly talented, a really good player in this league. So, you know, I always go back to this, but we're not good enough to be content at any one position or even just at the starting position. Like, we've got to build depth. We've got to get real players all throughout this roster. And that's my challenge, and that's what I'm going to continue to do, even though, you know, sometimes, like for me, it's a success if you're finding other players that are going to challenge some of your best players. Okay, we're doing good because we're continually building our talent base.
Joe, you said that after that moment of celebration wears off, it turns to what's next and what else are you trying to do here? What's next? What else are you trying to do here? And what do the next couple of weeks look like as you move past the draft?
Yeah, so, I mean, tomorrow, you know, go through the second round. We have 2 picks there, 34 and 40, which are pretty good picks. So obviously we'll get that accomplished and figure that portion of, you know, the next step in the process figured out. Beyond that, get into the off season and still look for ways to get better. I mean, like I said, we've got to continue to build this talent base, and, you know, we're committed to Scoot and Shaden being a massive part of what we're doing. And how do we find ways to, you know, give them the support they need and make them better and maximize their development. So it's continually seeking players that we can add to this roster that we can grow with and build together with.
Do the last one here.
In that you're committed to this young nucleus, is it likely that some of the older guys might get moved?
I don't know if I'd say likely. I think throughout this whole offseason, I've been open-minded. Again, with the mindset that we need to get better, and I think in some ways we need to get different. So I think my goal is to just, you know, really work the phones and be open-minded and be opportunistic about, you know, finding players that can help us in not just the short term but the long term. And I think you'll see that theme with, you know, some of our additions, that we are looking at, you know, putting a runway here that where these guys can be really good for hopefully a long time, and just trying to find guys that fit that mold.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.